All right, welcome back, YouTube. We got a painting update this week. 20 Persians completed. All you gotta do is put the varnish and base coat them. So these guys are Takabara. These are essentially open order infantry, javelins with shields and hand weapons. Unit of 20. I originally was going to do 2 units of 16, but because of how the Vitrix sets are, I have a literal shit ton of extra command sprues. So I decided I was going to do 2 units of 20 instead. So that's what we got. So these guys do have commands with them. Yeah, so I painted them up. Half of them have patterns. I did various colors of blues, greens, pinks, purples, red, and that's about it. And like I said, half of them have patterns. Shield transfers from Little Big Man Studios, of course. These are Vitrix. They painted up pretty good. Unfortunately, it took me 3 weeks, over 3 weeks to paint them. So this is the first miniatures I completed for the month of September, which is unfortunate. And maybe if I'm lucky in a week, I can do the second unit, which would get me to marathon. So all I would have to do is paint the 2 triremes I showed off in the last video to get everything I needed for marathon on the table. So they all have shield transfers except for one that has a yellow shield that you can see there. I'll show them off here, and then we could talk about the second segment here. You can see here some of the patterns. I just got them. I put my open order infantry on 60 by 40s, 4 figures to a base. That's just how I like them, so they can be all open order-ish there. You can see there I used the transfer for the banner, or for the standard. Pretty good miniatures. Painted up like everything else. Obviously, the bulk of my army's been Vitrix. So that's just what I've been painting. Shield transfers were really nice. They're going to be a little shiny. I don't have the varnish on them yet. But yeah, I did one with a yellow shirt. And he got purple polka dots. But yeah, that's those guys. So we're going to do a second unit of 20 after these guys. And like I said, that'll get us through Marathon. And then I need to paint a couple units of cavalry and a unit of 10,000. And that'll get us through the rest of the Greco-Persian War. So at that point, I'm going to be pretty much done with the army until we go back to the Alexander period. Because, I don't think I think I'm going to just switch gears to the Greeks, so that way I can get the Greeks done for the Peloponnesian Wars and the wars of the 4th century. And then I'll revisit the later Achaemenid forces, of which I've already painted some. I do already have a unit of Kardaka and a unit of heavy cavalry for the later period already painted. So I'll really only need to paint some elephants, some chariots, a couple more units of Kardaka, and some more commands, and that'll be the late period. So 2/3 of the army will be done here in a month or so. I think I'm over 200 miniatures at this point, with about 100 to 130 left to go on the project in total. So all in all, not bad. It's definitely coming. They're coming along. They're coming along good. I'm ready for the project to be in a finalized state. This was my big project for the year. It was a massive project. Definitely the most colorful army I have. But I'm excited to get to some Greeks. I haven't painted Greeks in a while, and this will be my first proper Greek army. It won't be as large as the Persian army, but it'll be a proper Greek army, all foundry. So super stoked to be doing that. That's this week's painting update. So the other part of the video I wanted to do is Von Ketteringham asked for people's stories or their experiences with their spouses in the hobbies. And I love when Von Ketteringham does this, because it like gives us a forum to respond to him in video format. He does this with all sorts of subjects, and I always respond to him because I like him. I like Von Ketteringham's content in general. Number one, he's a real war gamer. That guy can paint, and he paints good. And he does all periods of history, and he does them well. So I really like Von Ketteringham's channel. I just love his work. But yeah, on to how my spouse fits in with my hobby. She's 50% of the reason why I got into the hobby. Um, when I was in the Army and married my ex-wife, I got into Flames of War. I did paint an American Airborne Army, and I painted it very awful. I didn't understand painting techniques, thinning paints, washes, varnishes, anything like that. So it wasn't the best army. I ended up selling it on eBay. It was not a good army. And this is back before YouTube. This is in the 2000s. So you didn't have YouTube, really. YouTube was just coming out. So you just kind of had to, either you had a friend show you or you just figured it out on your own. And that's what I did. And then I was in the process, so I learned a lot painting that first airborne army. And I had collected and was in the process of painting a German army to go with it, of which I kept most of it. And I still have it, and I'm still working on that today. But after that, I put down my ex-wife. Of course, she hated everything I did, and to include that. She was not very supportive of that. She thought it was a big waste. So yeah, there's that. But we didn't keep her around. But I went to college, and I had to put hobbies down, and I focused on college, and I had a family too. So double whammy there. But after college, I got a job. Shortly after, I started my divorce, which took about 3 years. Yeah, a pretty painful one. But in the middle of the divorce, I was with my current wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and I came across some videos on YouTube of 28mm miniatures. And when I got into Flames of War, I didn't even know about 28mm miniatures because the store I went to only had Flames of War and Warhammer. That was it. Those were your only options. Flames of War or Warhammer. So, of course, I did Flames of War. Yeah, but I saw that there's this game called Bolt Action, and it's for 28mm, the same size as the Warhammer guys. So I watched tons of videos, painting videos, how to play videos, and I went to my now wife, then girlfriend, and was like, hey, I really want to get into this. Is this something you want to do with me? And I was dead broke at the time. I was halfway through the divorce, and I didn't have a penny to my name. But she was gracious enough. She knew I wanted to do it, and she was gracious enough to indulge me. And she bought a box starter set. We're not married yet, so it's her money and my money, not our money. And she bought one of the box starter sets, and I bought the other. So I bought the Germans, and she bought the British. We assembled them all together. So she glued everything together and cut the sprues and all that, and then I painted everything. I think she tried painting, but she had zero patience for that. but I ended up painting them all, and then once I had both forces painted, what took six to 8 months, we actually played games. So for the first year I was in the hobby, I only played with my wife. We would go to the local game store and use their tables and scenery, and we would play Bolt Action. We played it 4 or 5 times, and then she gave birth to our child, who is now 3, and that kind of put a hiatus on that because, obviously, baby, newborn, that kind of thing. But I still painted. I was still painting. I was still collecting a little bit. Not collecting a lot because I didn't paint a lot and didn't have anybody to play with. But when my son was about 6 months old, I met Holy Diver, and bam, that was like, it was like doing steroids for the first time in the gym, right? Like, it was like, holy shit, these are rookie numbers, I gotta pump this up. I saw his collection, I saw Holy Diver's collection, and I was like, okay, time to go. And I've just been painting as much as I can ever since, try and catch up to him. But yeah, my wife is actually very supportive for her spouse, as far as wargaming and my hobby time goes. She knows it's important to me. She does not give me grief for spending money on it. I try to be reasonable and respectable. Sometimes I'm better than others. I typically will buy like 2 or 3 times, 3 or 4 times during the year, and then the rest of the times I just work on what I got. And if I need to buy a paint here or there, I'll do that. Or terrain, or like flocky material, or ground texture, whatever it is. But I only buy actual miniatures a few times a year. I do buy a lot of them when I do buy them, though, so don't let that fool you. But yeah, she's pretty supportive. She's supportive of my game time with Jonathan. Anytime I want to play games with Jonathan, I can tell her. I don't always do that. because it's kind of rough, and just family priorities take over. I definitely don't play as much as I want to, and sometimes I don't paint as much as I want to. But she's always very supportive. I tell her, hey, I really want to spend 3 hours painting today. She'll help me find time so I can sit at the painting desk and spend a couple hours painting. So I'm pretty lucky. She doesn't game with me now. She doesn't really have an interest in gaming with me now. She might do Star Wars Legion because the kids are getting into that. So she might do that with me, with us, I should say. But yeah, I don't think she'll be painting miniatures. But she's very supportive of my hobby time, and she knows it's a good relief outlet for me. Rather, it's a good outlet for my frustrations and stress and anxiety and all that stuff, which is how I do use painting. It's just a relaxing time, and then I get to admire my work afterwards and play games with them. So yeah, I'm pretty fortunate. I got a wonderful wife who doesn't ever make me feel bad about my hobby. That doesn't mean I can't just start spending like $10,000 a year on it, because then she would make me feel bad about it. But I try to keep it reasonable, and so yeah, I'm pretty fortunate. It'd be interesting to hear what other guys say. Now, disclaimer: we've only been married for like 3.5 years, so like I told you, I was in the hobby for a year before that, before we got married, when we were dating. So she knew I was in the hobby when we got married. It wasn't a surprise. She got me back into it to some degree. So yeah, so that's kind of my story, and hopefully in a week's time you guys will be seeing another painting update of some more Persian javelin men. So till next time, guys, keep painting.